I noticed I went through and just watched some of our previous episodes, and I noticed that I go like this a lot right before we're about to start.
You get
I don't
ready.
even mean
It's
to.
your little pep dance.
Yeah, it's like
It's
I'm just
like
like,
when you see a fighter like bounce on their
yeah, yeah,
toes or whatever.
yeah. It's my dance. It's my live show dance.
Lori's doing the fishy.
Yep, exactly. Okay. You two ready? Let's get this ball rolling.
Good to go.
Good afternoon. Today is Friday, June 12th, 2020. Today, we're going to talk a lot about WWDC because the details are out. This is the iMore Show. And joining us today, as usual, the expert therapist of westmounttherapy.com and anxiety-videos.com, Georgia Dow. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, Joe Keller, assistant managing editor of iMore. Welcome to the show, Joe Keller.
Always good to be here.
And me, Lori Gill. All right, let's dive in. WWDC is exactly 10 days away from now. So we are in full swing. We're preparing for this. We're getting ready for all the good stuff.
And so that's June 22nd, just in case you're not watching it today.
Yes, correct. It is on June 22nd. And we first knew that it was happening. And then just 2 days ago, no, yesterday, Apple finally unveiled the lineup of what they're going to do and what's going to take place. So let's talk a little bit about the fun stuff, the things they seem to have left off but might still happen. And I'd love to talk a little bit about the one-on-one sessions and the engineering sessions, because that's probably going to be the weirdest part for Apple developers. You know, for a lot of us, the keynote is the only thing we watch and the only thing we pay attention to. But the developers go there for a lot more. And it seems like they're doing everything they can, but it does still seem like it's going to be weird. Let's first talk about the keynote. It's going to start at 10 a.m. Pacific time, so that's 1 p.m. Eastern time. The keynote address will stream directly from Apple Park. So I don't know the...
Oh, Lori, you've been muted.
I thought it was me. I'm like, oh my God, it must have been me again. I've lost mic control. Well, first we'll go through, while we wait for Lori to get back sound, is that, yes, it's digital only. So we're going to all be there. No physical, contact with anyone because of the Global Health Conference. So we're doing this all online. Does that make you happy, Joe? Or do you miss, the idea of it being...
Well, I do kind of like that everyone's going to experience the keynote this year like I have always experienced the keynote virtually.
It's fair. You find it just, at least.
Yeah, this is how it should be. I at least 1 year. I've always found it interesting, the sort of differences between the people who are watching on, like, following on Twitter, the people who are watching online versus the people who are tweeting from the audience. But yeah, the whole setup of this WWDC I have found strange. And I mean, it fits the year that we're in, doesn't it? First they announce it, and then they announce the date, and now they've announced all these details. And the good thing, I think, the thing that's remaining consistent year to year, virtual or in person, is that this keynote is starting at 10 a.m. Pacific. It's the same time, same bat time, same bat channel. So yeah, I do appreciate that, at least.
Yeah, and it'll be streamed from Apple Park. So there are a whole bunch of, like, for many people, this won't really change.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the questions I have about this still is this going to be a live keynote, or are they going to take the opportunity to pre-record it, like they did with the iPad Pro and the Magic Keyboard announcement back in March.
Right.
I think
Right.
I think that's still a big question.
You know, even if they slightly pre-record it, because the problem is if they record it, I would worry about it suddenly happening to be leaked out. And Apple's really, you know, they really try to make sure that they curate that leaks will not happen. So my thoughts is that it will not be pre-recorded, or if it was, it would be very like limited delay.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
they're so well rehearsed. Very rarely, even when it's like they don't make mistakes very often. Like they're few and
not
far
the
behind.
keynote.
Yeah.
Like the big one that I still remember is less a mistake and more of they just didn't have the Wi-Fi capacity, was during the iPhone 4 announcement.
Yes.
And Steve Jobs had to tell people, to tell reporters to turn off their Wi-Fi.
Turn off, or I'm turning this keynote around.
Or
it's going to end if you don't do it. He was really angry.
He was. He like stopped the keynote and he got to put everything in airplane mode. It's like there's one person that's got their stuff on.
Oh yeah, and you know that he's like, I'm not, like, you guys choose, but this isn't happening unless you're doing it my way. And so,
but
you know, they took him seriously.
In recent years, they've, I guess, increased capacity. I know they've provided Ethernet too, so that has been less of an issue. But yeah, you're right. They don't make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, the accidental touch here or there. Lori, are you back with us?
I think so. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey,
she's there, Lori. We were talking about whether or not it would be live. And we're talking about they don't usually make mistakes, you know, and Joe was talking about the infamous Steve Jobs talking about turning the podcast around if no one shuts down their Wi-Fi.
Right.
And it's going to be free for everyone, which, you know, you wouldn't think that you'd have to pay for watching something online, but they're very expensive tickets. They're $1,600 to attend.
Right.
So in some ways, this could work out better for people in that it will be cheaper in a lot of ways. Like, I wonder if it'll actually change the way that they do keynotes. You know, I think that hands-on experience of actually getting to test out products would be different. But I think in a lot of ways, some people may prefer to not have to travel and deal with it in hotels. And
so I don't know how much you've already talked about, so I apologize if I rehash.
We did not
something you already
speak about what you were talking about. We've gone to different, so don't worry, still.
Okay, but yeah, so on the one hand, the keynote has always been live, so I don't think it's going to change. They're going to hold it at Apple Park, and probably the people in the audience, instead of being developers, will be employees, and they'll probably be 6 feet apart. You know, they'll probably.
Now, are we going to have laugh and clap tracks onto this so that you hear cheering, or are they just going to make everyone cheer extra loud?
They're going to make everyone cheer. We're going to need our own little laugh buttons.
Tim Cook, there's just like a stark black obelisk on the stage, and on top of it is a single bright red button, and every time Tim Cook needs cheers, he just presses the button.
You know what? The people that work at Apple are already so enthused. I don't think that he's even going to have to do that. I think people are going to be just so excited to do this and want to support all of the projects that they've worked on so hard. Like, it'll just be interesting to hear the ones that were the most enthusiastic, like which ones, you know, is it the app area that's going to be the loudest ones, and they cheer I think there'll be a little bit of a competition to see where they support what.
Right.
Now, one of the things I'm wondering about is, you know, every year right before the keynote, Apple has some kind of video, like, you know, often about developers. I mean, how
are they going to do it this time?
I mean, I assume it's going to be about, you know, coronavirus and how we're all dealing with that.
Well, I was wondering if they're going to do something with, Black Lives Matter, or if they're going to deal with the coronavirus. Like, they often say also things about, you know, safety, security, human rights, social, you know, they also have a little piece. And I wonder if they're going to give something back to let people know that they care and Apple's here.
It's just going to be 2020, the year so far, and it's going to be like a 3-minute video of an on fire trash can.
Because that's exactly what this year has been like. No, I think, I bet their little opening montage video this time, it's going to be really cleverly done, and it's going to be either people all by themselves, or people wearing face masks so that we are clear that this was done with all of the kind of protections in place. There was this amazing video that Zoe Bell, who's a stunt woman, she and a bunch of other stunt women put together this amazing 3-minute video. I think it was 4-minute video clip of, so it would be like one person would like punch at the screen, and then when the fist came back, it was a different person doing a stunt.
That was amazing.
It was so clever.
That was really great.
So I could imagine Apple getting in touch with developers.
Oh no.
You cut out again, Lori. Yeah, it just went. You're gone. So I'm assuming it's developers that are going to hit their screen with their phones, and then something like that's where I think Lori was going with it.
I mean, it could be something like that. You actually saw this in the Mythic Quest quarantine episode that they did a few weeks ago. They did at the end of the spoilers at the end of the episode.
I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
They do this big old Rube Goldberg machine across multiple like FaceTime calls.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it could be something like that, just, which is exactly what Lori was talking about. I think that what it could be is a lot of obviously shot at home stuff from Apple employees, like obviously shot on an iPhone. It's kind of, maybe it's kind of, a little shaky because it's handheld, or it's people, how people are passing the time or how they're working, they're working with their pets on their lap or their kids or what, all that sort of thing.
Yeah. I like that idea. I think that would be, let people know that they're not alone in dealing with this. Also, if Apple talks about how they're trying to keep people safe. Larry, let's hear a peep from you.
No, I can't hear.
Oh, I can hear you a bit, but it sounds strange. Okay.
Keep talking.
Oh, yeah,
All
we
right.
can hear you, but we can definitely tell that it's from the computer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. And now I can hear you. So I apologize for the way the audio sounds, but I have to do it this way. There's something wrong with my external microphone. So the audio from me is going to be kind of crappy the rest of this.
It happened. Well, that's what happened to me last week.
Time.
And
Wow.
it did the same thing. And it gave me this really strange pop-up that was saying that your external mic has been muted, and
That's
it
what's
gave me
happening
this
to me.
huge pop-up. And I actually, well, we'll see if it has not happened to me since, though I haven't used StreamYard since.
Yeah.
But I had to restart my entire computer, and I knew that I was never going to make it back in time by the time the entire, machine starts
I'll
back
do
up.
that as soon as we're done with this. But for now, I got to use this like kind of bad audio. I'm sorry.
So,
Yeah, it's like Jim will make you sound.
Did you two finish my idea of a really great mini clip of a bunch of developers like suddenly switching from one scene to the next?
I'll give you mine, and I'll give you Joe. Well, Joe will give you Joe's. So mine was that they'll like take their phone, and then they'll like put it into the screen, and then the iPad comes out to the screen, and then they show. But I like it if they mix that with what Joe was saying, which was like also how they're dealing with it at home.
Mm-hmm.
And
like
so they have
Apple engineers.
Yeah, exactly.
And
like what they're doing to like, I think that if they mixed both of those together, it would be adorably cute.
Yeah, I bet you they're going to do something like that. If there's one thing for sure, it's that they're really good at being creative and coming up with some pretty fun things to do. And I think they wait until kind of late in the game to make that too. So it'll be pretty poignant and like up to date when it comes out too, I think. But yeah, so then when we move on to the keynote, that one, again, I don't think there's anything going to be extra special about that other than we won't be there. It'll be at Apple Park instead of at, the McHenry Center or something like that. It's never been at Apple Park. The WWDC keynote has never happened at Apple Park. So this will be kind of a fun new thing.
Yeah, usually it can't be because there are 5,000 people.
Exactly.
So they don't fit.
But this might also like open up some opportunities for them to use the special design that they've got at Apple Park to make it more interesting, like the surround stage and visual stuff, so it might end up being really fun. I'm excited. And in terms of demoing, that's, I think, where the biggest question is whether or not it's going to be live. I think in the past, it's been important that these are live so that they're showing us really what's happening. We're not questioning whether or not they, took the take 7 times to finally get it to work right. So I hope that the whole thing will be live, including the demos, just because if I see a video clip of a new feature in iOS 14 and it's working really smoothly, to me, it's going to feel more like the way Google does it, which is pre-done stuff that isn't going to go wrong. Because I think it's important that we do see it mess up a little bit because we know it's real. We know this is really happening. So if there's a lag or if, some of the conversation is a little awkward or off, like that shows us that these are features that are actually happening in real time while we're watching it. So I hope they keep up with that.
I hope so too. And Apple has a good track record of doing a great job with that. And I think also it shows how much someone believes in a product if they feel comfortable with doing it live, even if it fails.
Right.
Like that they would do that when you watch the Tesla one where they're throwing the metal bar bearings at the windows. And, they broke. Now they broke, which is like a really big deal. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is horrible. But that they must have tested this so many times, which is why that they broke, because they had tested it so many times that they caused microfractions. Anyways, in the glass. And that's probably what happened. You're supposed to replace, if you've been shot already once, you're supposed to replace the glass after because of those little micro fractures that are in it. But they believed enough to test that out. And it's really, really risky. And so I still thought, that's a really cool thing that they did that. So I hope, along with you, Lori, that they do go live. They take us to look through the different features. And I hope it's not perfect and polished, because part of the reason that we like to watch it live versus, something that's prefab done is because I want to see what's really going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, to be sure. The next thing that they're doing is the Platform State of the Union, which will happen at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Joe, you always cover this one. It's the same thing, right? It's always streamed live for everybody to see it. This time, it's just going to be the people in the audience will be different.
Yeah. I assume it'll go over the changes in iOS and macOS and watchOS and iPadOS and tvOS.
Right.
It'll go over everything.
All the changes
from a more developer centric perspective. I mean, the keynote's always been for developers, but it's also been for consumers. I mean, they let anybody watch it. So
yeah.
But this is more, we're going to have examples in code and all of that stuff that most people aren't going to want to see.
That the average non-developer might fall asleep while trying to watch.
Yeah.
And Joe.
and also Joe.
So while we're talking about this Platform State of the Union, Ikishin, again, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, and I apologize. And if you want to type in phonetically how we're supposed to pronounce that, let us know. Asks if the rumors say that they are currently supporting iOS devices. Sorry, all currently supported iOS devices will be supported on iOS 14. I've heard that rumor too, which means that this is actually extending the length of the iOS to additional devices, because I believe the iPhone SE original should have been its support for that should have ended as of iOS 13, and I believe that I've heard this rumor too that it will be supported on iOS 14. So yeah, that would be great. And also says that it seems like evidence to suggest that iOS 14 will be focused on performance and stability. So that did happen. iOS 12 was mostly the performance and stability. So it wasn't a really big thing. It wasn't major changes. There were some really cool things in there, but it was a much needed stability update year for them. But Joe, you actually have spent some time digging up the rumors of what we think we're going to see based on early code of iOS 14. So again, doesn't mean it's going to be in there, but it means at some point it was in there. So what are some of the features that we've seen so far?
Let's see. There are a lot of things. We've talked about some of these on the show before, but I think, at least for me, the big one is widgets. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the rumor anyway, that iOS might get widgets on the home screen. They might come out of the icons. Maybe they're going to be, or maybe they're going to be just the today widgets transposed onto any screen. It's unknown at this point. It's unknown if it's even going to happen. It's certainly one that I really want. I'd love to see it, but yeah, the other big one, and we talked about this a bit last week, but translation in Siri, native
Yes.
translation,
Yeah.
or not Siri, not in Siri, in Safari.
Sorry. Yeah.
I always have Siri on the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, having that built in rather than having to go through third-party apps, that'd be cool. Let's see, what are the other big rumors
I know.
here?
I can't, Georgia. Do
I
you?
like- Yeah, I like the idea and of the handwriting text that will then be converted into
Yes.
like you handwrite with the pencil in handwriting, and then it goes into text. And so therapeutically, actually, that I would love, because one is my handwriting is horrible, and I do have some of my colleagues that work on an iPad during sessions. So I write with pen and paper on a sheet, but they write, handwritten onto a sheet of paper. Now, the reason that I don't type out, one is because I think the clickety clackety would be very annoying for my clients, but with a pencil, it would be almost the same, but then it's transcribed into text form. And so I think a lot of, like, for medical use and for professionals like me that, you can never read a doctor's handwriting, and my handwriting is worse than that. But then it would be transcribed into text code, and then it's there and you could use it and edit it. And if you have to send it to someone and it's legible, would be like life-changing, I think, in a lot of different fields. So though it's a small feature and maybe, I don't know how excited anyone else is about it, I'm like, that could be amazing to have.
It's something I've always loved. So there's a few apps, a few note-taking apps out there in the wild that I can't think of any names of right now that support handwriting recognition that converts to text. And on your Apple Watch, if you want to use your handwriting, it will convert to text. So it exists not only in third-party places, but Apple already does it on the Apple Watch.
And it's actually quite good on the watch. I mean, use that primarily. I don't speak. I usually will type out each, and it works out really well.
And I have terrible handwriting too, so I'm always impressed that it recognizes my weird-looking A's and things like that. So this definitely, I actually would love it because I like to just write. So like if I'm taking notes when we're watching a keynote, I pull out a piece of paper and a pen because I'm faster at it. Weirdly, I have to concentrate when I'm typing, but my hands are just doing their own thing when I'm writing. So I've always wished that I could do that with the Apple Watch, or sorry, with the iPad and the Apple Pencil. But because my handwriting is so bad, I'm taking up like tons of space on the screen, and it's hard to figure out what I was writing in the future. So the idea that this could translate right into text as I'm writing it, or maybe, after I'm done, I can hit a button and it'll translate it all to text sounds pretty wonderful.
Sounds amazing. The other one that I'm excited about, and I might be the only one that's excited about this, is that apps on the home screen may get a list view.
Yes.
Now, I love that because I put all of my games like in a folder, and so I have to find them. I have to scroll through them, and if it just like popped out, I would be able to find things faster because I don't really have any logic to the way that I set things up. I'm not that organized. I don't know if anyone's noticed. Not that organized. So it's kind of haphazard in there. And sometimes when I want to find something that I have not used much, I do the finder and I find it and then it goes to it. But I still have no clue where it is. So I have to constantly do that. And I'm lazy by nature. So list view would save me time. And the icons are so small, my vision is not getting better with time. So I'm like, I don't know, what is that? What's that? I don't know what it is. And then I'm having to click and I'm having to go open and I'm searching for it and I'm angry and frustrated. And then it's like, oh, I clicked the wrong one. I have to go through this entire process again. List view, I think, would work out for me much better.
I think.
Yeah, sorry. It's not just a list view. It's also a list view that that has sort of different settings. So it can organize by
So exciting.
alphabetically, but it can also
Most recent. Tell me most recent.
I don't know about most recent, but it will organize at least according to rumors by notification. So if you have a notification on an app, it'll organize those apps, maybe list them first.
And Georgia, I'm sure that if this is actually going to happen, that it will be most recently opened as well, because that happens on Apple Watch. So they already have the sort of, the idea in place on Apple Watch. It's just a matter of transferring that same information over to iOS and iPadOS.
It's like dark mode came to the TV first.
Yeah.
And then Mac, and then iPhone.
And then iPhone.
And then the one we really want.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta work for it.
Yeah. You gotta want it. You
Yeah.
gotta see it that you want it.
Joe, did you call up a list of other features too? So just run down a few real quick.
Okay, so
we're going to talk all about this next week too, so we don't want to go into too much detail.
So one of the ones that I think is really interesting is there. So we've got the workout app on the Apple Watch, and we've got the activity app on the watch and the phone. But now apparently there's also going to be a fitness app on watch, phone, and TV. Now,
so what's up with the TV? I just want to know this, Joe. What's up with the TV?
What fitness is supposed to do apparently is it's supposed to be all about guided workouts. So guide you on your watch, guide you on your phone, and guide you in your living room on your TV.
Okay, see, I was going with a different thing. Like while I'm watching another show, I can see how many calories I'm not burning. And I get shamed into standing up because I would then just turn that setting off because I want to just watch my show and not worry.
So it would act less like an app and more like a layer on the TV show, shaming you.
Yes.
You should stand up now. Have you
right. Yeah, exactly. If you were walking, you know how many calories? Yeah.
It's like instead of the Netflix, are you still watching? It's are you still breathing?
Yeah.
The safety feature.
Right. Are you asleep? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that theoretically is coming to those 3 devices. iPad gets left out of health features again. And then this is interesting. Messages is supposed to be getting at mentions. For I think just for group text. I would hope just for group text because I don't really see a point to them outside of group text.
So in a group text, we'd be all in a group text, and I'd say at Joe, and I would send a message, and it would only go to you.
Well, I would assume that everyone could see it, but I would be the only one who was notified.
So Georgia, I don't know if you know this. I'm going to admit to something that has happened for at least a year now, but I've never told anybody.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued now.
I mute the iMore show conversation.
Oh, I do. I've always done that. Is that horrible?
I feel as bad.
I haven't learned that yet.
I know how. I do any group that is chatty. I have it muted always. Actually, like I have it on like for all large group chats. I do that just because if not, well, yeah. I want to know actually why you do that. Just because you don't care about me. No, I'm just joking. I do it too. Don't feel bad. I just make you feel guilty.
I'm sure it's the same reason. I'm doing my thing. I'm working, and suddenly it's like buzz, 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 buzz.
Now wait,
buzz,
Lori,
and
I'm
it's
gonna
like
pause back. Do you actually have it buzzing?
Well, if I've got it, if I don't have Do Not Disturb on, I've got my my notification from messages.
Yeah, I'll just ask. I'm going to ask this, and this is just why. Why would you do Why would you do that? Why not turn all of the buzzing off so that when you're free, you can go to it? And then unless it's someone like your mom and you need to know because or someone's giving birth and you need to know to put it on as to like a feature of buzzing you. But maybe you should turn it off for a week and we could talk about, was that better for productivity and sense of being relaxed? Because I have them they don't buzz. I don't have anything buzz, beep, ding, ring. Yeah. I don't even have my phone doesn't even ring. Like it does nothing. My watch gives me a vibration. That is it, but only for phone calls. But
yeah, no, I feel like I'm on the couch right now. Because you're right, and we always talk about how it's important for us to kind of be in touch with the real world and put our screens down for a minute, and how like that can cause its own level of anxiety. And the productivity thing, you're so right about that.
Yeah. I
don't really have a good excuse for it because my work-related conversations happen in Slack. I don't get text messages, so I can turn off text messages for 8 hours while I'm working. And if someone needs to talk to me, it's going to be a work-related issue. So I don't have a good excuse for it. It's
Would
FOMO.
you want to try it out and we could talk about the experience, or would that be too much? I
would do it. I would, especially right now, because the one thing that happens during the day normally that I might feel compelled to make sure that I know about is any changes to band practice. But we haven't. None of my bands have practiced in 3 months, and we don't have anything scheduled. So I would do it for
a an emergency, right? Like it wouldn't be
No, it would just be like somebody canceled.
My guitar is going to die if you don't, right?
Yeah, no, right. Yeah. Yeah, it would just be like organizing practice type stuff. So I would try it for a week.
So I should feel even worse because I don't have that on, and yet I have it on Do Not Disturb, so that I can go to it, but I don't even get a little pop up. So that I have, like, if it's a client related thing, I'll see them, and if it's like stuff that I know happens in a certain time frame, I go to it, which I don't know. I feel like that's the way the technology should be. It shouldn't be that it's forcing itself upon me, which seems like harassment. I should be going to it when I have the time and space to be able to deal with it. Joe, you're the next one on the hot seat. What do you do?
So I all notifications all the time. Well, no. So I make great use of Apple's Deliver Quietly feature that they introduced in, I think it's iOS 13. I think it was this year. Or within this last year. So I still get a lot of notifications, but they come in quietly. I don't do this for messages, but I just was thinking this is a feature I'd like to see in iOS 14, selective quiet notification delivery for message threads.
Now, why do you have it? Why do you have any of the buzzing and beeping at all is always my question that I ask people. What is its benefit?
FOMO.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's that, but also, I mean, it's primarily for Slack because that's, I think, probably my most used messaging app is Slack. So that's work messages.
But are they usually work? I've been on the iMore Slack. I'll just say it. A lot of it is not. We work very hard. It's great. Like everyone's working very hard, but most of it is like not really work related. I don't mean to call anyone out, but there's a lot of chat that's not really.
There's a lot of pictures of dogs,
which I love, but I want to see the dog when I want to see the dog, and then I figure someone will just text me or if it's an emergency, people know they just call me. But then still, like if I'm not wearing my watch, like I'm not going to get that either.
Generally, I've got my Slack notification set up so if my phone is buzzing or my Mac is dinging, someone is talking to me.
Fair. Now, would you think about trying to see if turning that off would cause you more relief, or are you very attached to the immediacy of when someone wants you, you are there, and they know now? Everyone knows if Joe's ignoring you, he wants to.
Yeah,
I have a plausible deniability of like nothing.
Silence is a message all its own. Silence is a message all its own.
Yeah.
And so I think I'd be worrying about missing a crucial message because
how often does that does it happen? So it's happened even with this setup. So then
it has happened even with this setup, but mostly because the way my Slack notifications used to be set up was broken.
Yeah, that used to happen to me too. Yeah.
Right. Because I'll say it. Like I'm dealing with people that in some cases are like having to go to the hospital. I have to talk to a doctor. At some points, it's really very important. Yet I don't have anything on, and I've never it's never
you're not missing out on anything by not getting every single notification.
I think that the gains for me is much greater than the losses, and then my people don't have to worry about bothering me. Like I'm like, message me as much or as often as you want. That is completely fine. Because it won't be interrupting me if I'm sleeping or swimming or doing something. It won't bug me. So I think that it gives people the freedom to know that when I have a moment, I'll go to that. And I have my people that I work on work stress. I'm like, have a time when you do, like I'm telling them, when you're working on something, you turn off everything. If you're working on an article, turn off everything, and you go to it after you say, like, at 12, I check all my messages, and you check all your messages and you reply to all your messages, and then that's done. And then, so it's not this, because it's the interruption of stuff that causes us, like, it's the, you know, it's a barrier to entry. Once you're in, like, writing something, when you stop, you have to go back to, what did I write? What did I already, you have to almost double the work to be able to go through to it. I don't know how this became a productivity episode.
Hey, everybody's listening to this and wondering these same things themselves, and especially people who work from home, where your interruptions are exactly that, like notifications. So
I've only
good for everyone.
Be happy that turn it off. I'm not saying, Joe, I'm not trying to put you but I think everyone should try it out for a week. At first, you will feel a massive amount of stress. It's much worse. But I've had zero amount of people go back to where they were before. Some people do turn on certain things, and they're like, these ones I still want to keep. Anyways, thoughts?
I will say, I think you're vastly overestimating how much people actually message me on anything.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It's not. It's generally, for me, it's generally not that much of a problem. I'm not getting constantly buzzed.
So I'm just going to now send you a whole bunch of messages.
Just to prove a point.
No, I would not.
I did this to myself.
That is not my way. That's not my path, Joe. Though it does make me chuckle.
No, but you know what I'll do? I'm not going to turn off Slack, because I actually do get probably 2 or 3 dozen direct messages in Slack every day, and they are important, and I do need to address them right away, because it's work-related stuff that's like, I need this, I need access to this, how do I do this? So I'm not going to turn Slack off, but I'm going to turn off all notifications for messages for a week. And if I feel like I didn't feel like I missed out on anything during that week, because I'm checking those messages at my command, not at the app's command, just like you're saying. I'll leave it off if it turns out it feels like,
if it works for you. If it works, it's just it may not work for everyone. I totally understand that for some people it may be more distressful than relaxing.
I can see myself. Okay. I can see myself being okay with it, though, because I pick up my phone and check it every once in a while, and how is that any different than getting a buzz and trying to ignore the buzz until I'm ready?
And then that thinking of, who is it? What is it? It could be this person. And then now you're stopped anyways doing whatever you were getting done.
Right. So if I just turn them off, then when I take my break, then I'm actually looking at these things and addressing them, instead of feeling like I have to address them right away. So I like it. Moving on.
Derailed the entire thing. I apologize.
It's good. I feel good. I feel like I've made some big changes right now.
There are more features said to be coming to messages.
Oh yes, so we were talking about adding someone in a group message.
That's how we got here.
Which again, if you use Slack, you understand that means where you're just the group. The group is having a conversation, and at some point, somebody needs to make sure that Joe gets this message. Then it will be like, Joe, don't forget to take out the garbage tonight, or whatever the family conversation is. So that's one. What's some other messages things coming? So
two of the other features. So we've got a group typing indicator for group messages. Just on if you use Slack at all, you might see many people are typing.
Yeah,
it's the same basic principle. Where you'll get like an indicator telling you that multiple people are typing at the same time, in case something big happens. Like I toss the iOS 14 announcement into the iMore show, and then we're all very excited about it, and we talk about it a lot. That sort of thing. The other thing that I think is really interesting that's said to be coming is retracting messages in iMessage conversations. So you send something to the wrong person, you can just tap on that message and hit retract. I would imagine that seems simple. Hopefully
it would be that simple. Like with email, there's the option to unsend for certain email clients. There's an unsend option, but it's like you have to get to it before a certain period of time, or you can't retract it. So I think if they're going to do the text message retracting, which I do think is a great idea, hopefully it's very easy to use, and it is not some kind of barrier to like a frustrating experience. Because for me, I find the retraction of sending an email, I find it to be frustrating. So if I accidentally sent the wrong message to somebody in an email, I just like, well, that's lame. And I don't try to go through and retract it because it's so confusing and difficult. And I don't want to, put out the effort. I just respond with, oh, that was a mistake. Sorry. And that's all I do. So hopefully it's something as easy as what Joe's saying, is a matter of just tapping it. And then,
like the delete feed, like it's just like a bloop.
Like a tap back. It's one of the options would be delete.
Maybe even on that same screen when you activate tap backs, it could even pop up there.
Exactly that. Stephen Perry's saying that probably once it's read, it can't be retracted. I would assume actually that it could be, though the use of doing that may not be as beneficial as someone's already seen it. Yeah. But I would assume that it would still be able to be retracted at any point in time. So like, and I think that for there'd be many benefits for that if you're, like those people that drunk text, which you should never do. You should never do that. But many people do. And then you wake up and you're like, and then you can just, hopefully you're up earlier than them. And you can be like, no, they might've seen it, but maybe they think it was a dream. It was a dream. It's gone. You
saw nothing. What are you
what message, right?
How many TV show episodes have we seen where the premise is sneaking into somebody's house to delete the message you left on their phone, and I just on their answering machine, I've just realized that since smartphones have become so ubiquitous, that's not a premise anymore, because I can't undo that.
No. I know people that have snuck onto people's phones to delete from their side the message that they did send. This has happened. This is not there'll be all kinds of people on Twitter be like, yeah, well, a friend of a friend, because no one could admit it, because then everyone would be like, they'll know, has done that. And I completely know that this has happened, that, but many people will send a message to the wrong person, or Siri types something and it's completely wrong. Like there's been some horrible things that I'm like, oh no, I didn't, I didn't mean to say that.
Yeah.
I would think that you would be able to retract it right after it was read, but I would also expect some kind of timer on it after which a message couldn't be retracted, because
oh really? That's scary. That you see, but then you can't, when you wait, you better not go to sleep.
But here's the issue though. I mean, this could be, we joke about it, but it could be a serious gaslighting tool.
Yeah.
If you
right.
send some maybe abusive messages to someone and then you retract them, you can say, oh, I never sent it.
But they do that on Twitter already, right? People delete those horrible, they try to, of course, like the internet is forever.
That's
true. People do try to, but other people have,
that's true. But it could be especially a concern if it's like an intimate partner, one-on-one. And it is a essentially a private conversation, even if it's on a phone screen. It's a private conversation.
But then then there's also like screenshotting your screen when people send abusive stuff. That could help.
That could help mitigate. But I would assume that Apple has at least thought about this.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of things they've thought about.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Let's wait till next week to get into all of the things that we hope to see and stuff like that. Because again, we've got one more iMore show before WWDC actually starts. So right now, let's talk a little bit more about some of the other things they're doing and some of the things they're not doing. We talked about Platform State of the Union. Apple's also going to do engineering sessions, and apparently there's going to be more than 100 engineering sessions that start on June 23rd. Developers will have the ability to learn how to build the next generation of apps with more than 100 technical and design-focused sessions helmed by Apple engineers. So these are things that have also already been part of WWDC. This is the part that the general public doesn't get access to, but if you have a developer account and you download the developer app, you can actually watch these sessions in the future. Again, the difference is they'll be doing these sessions without anybody there to ask the questions about them. So do you think this is going to be beneficial to developers because there doesn't get to be that Q&A moment, or do you think this is still going to be really good information? Again, we're not developers, so we don't know. And if any developers want to chime in and send us messages on Twitter or something to tell us if you think that this is a good thing or a bad thing, that we would love to hear that too.
I mean, I think having the information out there is always useful. I mean, even for people who aren't developers, it's good to know more in specific about different features, like, iCloud, any changes to iCloud or shortcuts, or,
how it's going to work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Q&A stuff, I mean, what's really interesting about that this year is the way they're handling labs. And
Right.
labs are going to be more of that sort of back and forth between developers, third-party developers and Apple engineers. Yeah.
Yeah, so the one-on-one developer labs, that's what they're going to be this year. Developers will be able to request an appointment with Apple engineers who help build the latest advances in Apple platforms, offering one-on-one technical guidance and in-depth details on how to implement new features. Developer labs will be open to Apple Developer Program members as space is available. So a couple of questions come to mind about this, and I think this is probably the biggest question for all developers is, how much time do I get, and how soon do I get to make the reservations, and will they fill up by then? Because I think Apple even mentions at the beginning of their at WWDC, bringing together the global Apple developer community of more than 23 million people. So 23 million people don't go to San Jose for the in-person WWDC. Yeah. So with 23 million people potentially trying to make a one-to-one reservation, who's going to get and who's not going to get? How is this going to work? Because that's a lot of people to try to make appointments for.
See, and this is
now, and these are free. You don't pay to have to go to them. Because if there was like a pay, like you had to, again, then I think that they, even just to curate out the people that don't care enough to pay like $5 or $10, which would be, a one-on-one, just being one-on-one trained, it would be much more than that. But it would then curate it. Like if they had like, listen, you're just going to give and we'll donate it. We'll donate it to, some charity or something that they're believing in, or, then at least it would curate out, because I don't know how it's not going to be influxed with a whole bunch of people that are going to be using up this time that may not be as serious as someone else. So that's just my other thought, is it's a lot of people. So even if you think 1 million people, there's no way that they could sustain that.
Yeah.
Like even if it's 15 minutes, and which how do you really get, like,
what kind of quality time do you get when you only have 15 minutes?
It can be cheap, it can be fast, it can be good. Pick two. I don't know how that is possible.
Right.
This is where I think they could have implemented a version of their lottery system. Maybe not even for paid tickets or whatever for the session or for the labs, but they could have used that system to kind of weed out. You sign up for the lottery, then you may or may not get a ticket, and then you designate which lab or labs. Maybe you get 1, 2, or 3 lab sessions, and then you can go to those.
Yeah, and even that is pretty. That would still be a lot. I mean, I have a paid Apple developer account. I could go make a reservation for a one-on-one. I don't have an app. I've never made an app. I have a developer account for work purposes so that I can access all of the behind the scenes stuff and write about them. That's it. So, how is Apple planning on managing this? And again, do when you make your reservations, do you have to, include your issue that you want to talk about? And if that's the case, are they going to be vetting which ones they think are more important? And if that's the case, are there people who aren't as important, in the Apple developer community, that maybe they're brand new or something, and they're not going to get the attention because they're not as well known as some of the other Apple developers? I do wish that we had a little bit more information on that so that we can see how Apple's planning on doing it. Obviously, on the 22nd, 10 days from the day we're recording this, we're going to find out. But I'd be interested to find out how this is going to play out. Because again, I think this is probably the most important part of WWDC for developers attending WWDC. Obviously, there's a lot of other important things around it, but like for the actual attending of it, this is why people go. Is mainly these one-on-ones.
Well, also, like the thing with the one-on-one part is that a lot of the questions will be questions that will probably be asked exactly in the same way somewhere else, where a video training on this could perhaps do, because you can't curate it by, you know, how popular app is, or if you've even made an app, because you might be a new app developer that really needs to answer these questions because you don't know. But then that question may be asked 10,000 times. And so is the time best spent on that versus everyone puts down a FAQ of what you know, would be what the question they would ask. And for the ones that happen a lot, they could do a video that is a video training that you go to. And then if there's any questions that are on the outskirts, or things that are technical that you need one-on-one attention, because I rather have one-on-one attention, but most of the time I don't actually need it. I'm not that skilled that it's not something that is already out there for someone to solve. So I think it's wonderful. I just don't know how it can be done. Like Apple does figure out really awesome solutions to this, but I just see a lot of people being frustrated or having to wait, you know, months to be able to have your question done. And then, you know, how comfortable are you with it? But maybe they already have solved this problem of finding a way to curate. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. There
is a reason that this rollout of WWDC 2020 has been like it is. I mean, they had to get an initial message out that it was going to be virtual only, but then they've spent the last few months figuring exactly this stuff out. And you know,
and they want to give the stuff that you would have gotten there. They want it to be as good as.
Except the pins and jacket.
Which I
no pins and jackets.
That's really sad. You should be able to like get a pin and jacket, like pay for a pin and jacket, because.
Well, the winners of the Swift Code Challenge, which is something that the Apple is also going to announce. They're going to announce the finalists on the 16th, and then the actual winners will be announced on the. Actually, I don't know when the actual the winners will be announced, but they are the ones. The winners of the Swift Challenge will get WWDC 2020 pins and jackets. So they are very special, and they deserve it. They deserve to be the special ones of this one. So some things that are missing, or one big thing I think that's missing from WWDC is there's not, at least not with this initial announcement of the details, there's not going to be an Apple Developer Award. And I think that bums me out, but I think it probably bums out a lot of developers out there, because it's like the Oscars or the Emmys or the Grammys of app development. If you win an Apple Developer Award, that's a big deal. And not even having it this year, which I don't know. It seems like this should be something they could do. It's the same thing. You're just announcing this app. You're talking about, you know, how it works and what it does, and then you're handing an award to somebody who accepts the award. I think this could still be done virtually, and I think it would make a lot of people happy. A lot of people would watch it. A lot more people would be interested in, you know, the new apps and games that win. So why didn't they do it? Why didn't they include it? I don't know.
Do you think that is it for sure that it will not be like, are we sure? Because that would be my thought, is maybe they will still, because that means so much to people that have been working so hard. It's very exciting to see. It's exceptionally prestigious. It's one of those ways that you can boost your app up to be able to you know, a huge, you know, world scale. I really hope it's not something that's missing. For a lot of people, this is a really big deal.
Yeah, so. It's only missing from their initial announcement of the details of it. It doesn't mean they're not doing it. Just like that wasn't part of the announcement, which makes me wonder whether or not it's actually going to happen.
One thing that occurs to me is, I mean, it's usually a ceremony, and I mean, this could be something, you know, this year this could be something that could potentially be done in a press release, and they mail the awards out. I mean, it's, you know,
That would
It'd be
be,
nice to have.
that would be fine to have.
Yeah.
Even if it, like, I think that it's better to, like, everyone wants to, the lights and the glamour for sure, but at least that it's still happening. You're right. Yeah. It could be a press release.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that will happen. Anything else you want to talk about with the details of WWDC coming on June 22nd before we move on to something new? I think we talked about most of the big deal about the details, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's one potential announcement that we haven't talked about yet today, and that is ARM Max.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So I figured we could move on to some of the rumors around what might happen at WWDC, and ARM Max are the big thing that Bloomberg earlier this week said Apple will be announcing. So who knows where they got this information from, but this is the rumor.
Bloomberg.
Yeah, this is Bloomberg. So if this is true, they will be announcing Mac, ARM supported Macs. But Joe, do you think we're gonna get ARM supported Macs this year in 2020?
See, I mean, it's a question of, is it enough time for developers to make the transition? I mean, the first thing we don't know that we need to know is, what is it going to take for developers to transition their apps? Because if it's easy, we could. I mean, there's a rumor, and maybe I'm focusing too much on the language of this particular rumor, and I think it's a Bloomberg one as well, another Bloomberg one, that Apple will release an ARM Mac by 2021. I'm focused on by 2021, kind of implies maybe towards the end of this year. But, I don't know if they're ready for that yet. Maybe the tools are in place that it's a really sophisticated, quick operation to port your app over to ARM, to compile it for ARM. Maybe it's a checkbox, and then you do some extra work yourself to make it really work, to make it really sing on an ARM Mac, so it doesn't gobble battery. Because that's going to be one of the selling points of portable ARM Macs is extra battery life. It's got to be. But yeah, I don't know that we'll actually see a consumer Mac this year. What we could see, and what we saw during the Intel transition 15 years ago.
But it was something that also took years to make that transition finally go through.
Yeah, every version of Mac OS up to that point had been running on Intel to one degree or another before Steve Jobs announced it. But one of the things that they did was they released developer-only hardware. It was a Mac desk. I think it was a Mac desktop. I think it could have been a Power Mac, a version of the Power Mac, that was running on an Intel chip, and developers built their apps with that and got ready for Intel with that. And I think we could see that. I mean, there are a lot of rumors of a new iMac. Maybe it is a developer-centric iMac with an ARM chip.
Oh, right.
Maybe it's that. I mean,
Georgia, did you hear about the rumor of a new iMac that has it's not bezel-less, but they're describing it as similar to the Apple XDR display, Pro display?
No,
thin bezels, so wider screen. They say iPad Pro design language, which nobody has really been able to pinpoint what they think that means. But if I were to guess, it means like the sort of chamfered edge, flat design of the iPad Pro. That's my guess. And we've been talking back and forth. I've been talking with other people about this too. My thought is that this was going to be a iMac Pro, which, Joe, I think also lends itself to kind of what you're saying, but what you're saying is that you think this might be a developer-only iMac. I
mean, it very well could be. The other sort of guess that people are making, I'm not even going to call it a rumor, but the kind of guess that people are making is, now that we have the Magic Keyboard, they could be doing this with the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro somehow able to dual boot an
Mhm.
OS, or maybe install Mac OS over it. If if you're a developer, that might be how you use it.
Yeah.
That could be the
That
sort of
that guess
developer
seems
machine,
wild.
right?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, it seems a little too wild to believe, but
Right.
also it makes the kind of sense that does just a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
yeah.
would have said that calling an iPhone a Pro was the stupidest thing that Apple would ever do, and guess what? They did it. So you
Yep.
never know.
Yeah, here we are.
So, Georgia, do you think we're going to see a redesigned iMac in 2020? And taking into consideration ARM. So, my guess would be if Apple's going to add ARM to a Mac, then maybe they're going to postpone the design of it. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I just keep on thinking, will it be touchscreen? I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah.
Please do that. I'll wait 2 years. Just letting you know.
So you want an iPad Pro that's just a lot bigger.
I want to be able to do both. I want it to be, I want now that one computer that rules them all. I want to be able to touch. I want to be able to use a trackpad. I want to have a keyboard. I want to be able to take the pencil and write on the screen. I want it all. Like, they can do it. So why must I be constrained, please? That's my question to it. So, yeah.
I want the whole world.
So, like, when I hear like iPad Pro design language, I'm like,
touchscreen.
Well, let's really make it iPad Pro like.
Yeah.
Go for it. Hello, I'm waiting.
Put iPad OS on it. Just put iPad OS.
If they need to merge all of them anyways, like, eventually, come on, guys, let's just go. Right? My husband's always angry about Mac OS, so he's always getting angry about the, some stuff works on one and doesn't on the other, and it's frustrating. So I don't know. Go ahead, Lori.
I strongly disagree with turning Mac OS into something more like iPad OS, because I think that Mac is its own standalone thing and should never integrate software-wise with iPad. I definitely don't think that.
Tell me why, Lori. Tell me, why am I wrong? Because I believe I could be wrong. But what would I lose?
One of the biggest things that are really important to me has to do with multitasking. So there's going to be a lot of different people and a lot of different things they do in their workflow that would either agree or disagree with me, like, the type of software used. For me, it has to do with the multitasking productivity workflow. I need multiple tabs open visually that I can see here and here and here. And no matter what I do on an iPad to try to achieve something close to multi-tabs and windows up, it always fails. I can have, Safari on one screen, Slack on another, with a tab open with my mail and another tab open with messages, but it's never fluid. It never works the way I need it to work. I either accidentally close something that I shouldn't, or you can have your mail app on top of your messages app, but they can't be side by side because you're also using something else as split screen. So it never works the way I need it to. So for me, though there's probably a lot more reasons, that to me is the biggest reason that I couldn't imagine using iPad OS on a Mac screen. Joe, what about you? Do you think that eventually iPad OS could replace Mac OS, or at least they could merge together so that it's more like iPad OS than it is?
I think iPad OS might be on a track to make Lori happier. That's what I'm going to say.
But yeah, I'm looking for a hybrid. I want, and me, I want it all. I want the best of both worlds.
And I don't think and that's the thing, Georgia, I don't think they end up merging the two systems. I think they just eventually keep expanding the capabilities of iPad OS until, at least on, say, a desktop like device, it's more akin to what we know as Mac OS right now, but it has, say, the pencil compatibility and all of that sort of stuff that iPad OS currently does. I think I think that instinct to have a touch-centric device that can be used as a traditional computer is a good one. And I think it's where Apple is taking the iPad. And it's actually, frankly, where the iPad is mostly right now, except for the windowing and multitasking stuff that Lori was talking about. At a very basic level, I have a tablet that I can attach to a keyboard and use it much like a laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like I use a laptop. I don't do all that multitasking stuff, even on a laptop. That Lori does.
You keep a single screen open and all.
I use full screen apps on my MacBook Pro.
Oh, yeah, that's the one thing I could never wrap my head around is full screen on Mac OS. Which, even though I hear you, Joe, you use it all the time, you have to admit that it's still really clunky. Like switching from one full screen to another, and then something like accessing your Slack when you get a message is like you lose full screen, or you can't access it because you're in full screen. There's lots of frustrations around
Lori, I don't have to admit anything of the sort. I don't find it that, going between full screen spaces, swipe, swipe. It's just swipe. But then I'm the kind of guy that has Mac utilities installed. And this is why I still like using a Mac, even though I love using my iPad for work, is I have Alfred installed on my Mac, which lets me set up keyboard shortcuts. And those are essential to, we talked about Slack a lot earlier. Control Option F opens Slack immediately. It just takes me there. It jumps right to Slack.
Yeah. Joe, we're going to have to spend one episode where you talk about your daily workflow.
My productivity workflow.
Because, you've got some really interesting ways
so
of...
much.
Yeah. And you also use shortcuts all the time. So
we'll do a shortcuts classroom too.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Good ideas out there. Let me just quickly, before we end our show, talk about a couple more little things that Apple has, either the rumors are coming out or they actually did happen. So the Magic Keyboard with trackpad, there's rumors that they're going to expand it beyond the iPad Pro. This is just another rumor, but I like the idea of Apple it's a very successful product and it works really well. And all iPad devices have trackpad capability now. So why not make a trackpad that fits all of them, except maybe the iPad mini? And that's not because I don't love the iPad mini, but I do. But I just have a feeling that they're in terms of how many they're going to make, there may not be as many people who want a keyboard with trackpad from Apple for the mini. That's all. But what, Georgia, do you for iPad Air and regular iPad, do you think that Apple should be doing this across the board? Even though there are other really good keyboards out there with trackpads, Logitech makes a good one. The Touch Combo is for iPad and iPad Air, and it's good. So what do you think?
I think they should. I think that they should. I think that they would sell more. And I think in the end, the numbers would help, deal with all of the development into making something new. Even for the mini, I can see sometimes where if you're traveling, you're like, you know what, this is what I need, but I hate typing out a long email. Let's plug in where the keyboard may be bigger than that's okay. There's no judgment. There's no judgment. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people would enjoy being able to have a trackpad, even though it is a different feeling when you're engaging it within the screen versus while I'm typing, I'm used to using, a trackpad. And so it's that comfort level. So I think that would be lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this, so I think this would come to a redesigned, more iPad Pro-like iPad Air, I think is or maybe also the iPad mini, maybe the lower end iPad, but this is where we have to have a real conversation about price because it's already too expensive. I am of the opinion that Apple prices almost all of esse accessories way too high.
You mean the wheels? Are you talking about the wheels now?
Wheels are fine. I mean, you're getting.
No, they're not. They're aren't they like $1,000 each or something like
$400.
that?
I thought that they were
$400 each.
Yeah, but it's for the Mac Pro. It's not like you can attach them to an iMac. You're already spending $6,000.
But there's no stopper on the wheels. I'm just to throw it out there. There's no stop. They just keep on rolling.
Well, Georgia, I'm just talking about price.
They're gorgeous.
I'm just talking about price. I'm not
Okay,
talking about practice.
fair enough. I'm just saying for the price, you could put a little thing that you know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
How much? And then they'd be $450 a piece. If you put the stopper on.
Yeah, you can have them with the stopper, but it's going to cost you.
Wheels SE. SE stands for special edition. $450 a piece.
Where they
They've
don't
got a
just
little
roll
stopper.
across your floor whenever you know you're walking across. That's fair. Okay.
I mean, how dare you ask for that? That's asking too much. A wheel to stop? What? But yeah, I think
I asked for too much always.
Even for the iPad Pros are expensive, and the Magic Keyboard for iPad Pro is expensive. I mean, that kind of tracks, but I still think the accessories cost too much. You can't charge $300 for a keyboard accessory for an iPad or an iPad Air. $300. That's the price of that's the price of an iPad. That's the price of the base level iPad.
Right.
Yeah.
And your point is even more important when you think about the way Apple has, when they make, for example, they have the iPhone 6, the iPhone 7, iPhone 6s, iPhone 7, and iPhone 8 were all the same exact casing style. By the time they get to the iPhone SE2, they drop the price of it significantly. They never drop the price of their accessories. Their accessories stay the same price. Like they don't like make the iPhone case cheaper or the Apple Watch bands cheaper. No. They keep the same price on those. So yeah, I think that you're right that they would but then if they're making the Magic Keyboard with trackpad for an iPad or an iPad Air, and then they're going to drop the price of it, what is that case going to be missing? Or how are people who spent $300 for the iPad Pro version going to feel about spending more money on something when somebody else gets the exact same thing for a lesser price? Because ideally it's the same keyboard. It's not going to be a different version of the keyboard, Literally,
the thing I think it would be missing is they take out the USB-C charging pass-through.
And then drop the price of it for that. Yeah.
Dramatically, even though the comparative cost savings for them wouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't know how much that would really, because you're altering the design, and then you have to have a different manufacturer. Like it has to. Like my thought is they could, after it's been out for a little while, they could just drop the price because they have enough profit.
Well,
I know. That's my thought is just drop the price.
I think they were just valuated at $1.5 trillion. So you're right.
They can drop the price. Like they'll still make, again, after that year where you can, for those that are the early adopters, we're going to spend the money. We'll buy the wheels. We'll buy a fifth one for fun. We'll do that. And so then we pay the price. And then after, for the later adopters, then you have, it's a little bit, more affordable. Apple is not gouging out our eyes to be able to buy all of our technology. I don't think that they need to really, make it actually cheaper. They could cut into a little bit of their profits. I know that
that's sacrilege.
I know.
Compared to the Apple
I know, but I think that these people are getting angry about all these mega corporations anyways. I think that they would go a little while for goodwill towards Apple, because I think people are getting a little bit ill with having all of these, profits over people. Corporations are people. We need to Citizens United. It's a little bit messed up, and people should come first. So.
In a way that their mainline devices don't feel this way, it feels a lot like being nickel and dimed.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
For these accessories. What was it? It's famously $80 for that USB-C video dongle that they released alongside the original MacBook. Or I say original, the 12-inch Retina MacBook. I mean, $80 for something I could get for 30 or 40 elsewhere.
If we just had some more bloody ports, we wouldn't need to be dongling everything either. Fine. Let's go back.
You're just gonna rant to go on right now.
Go back to maybe we should have maybe I shouldn't have to plug in my beautiful new MacBook, and I have to plug it in on one side. That's ridiculous, and it angers me that you I like thin, but you could make it a little bit thicker. And I want to be able to plug it in from both sides. Maybe I like the MagSafe. I loved the MagSafe. I thought that was really awesome. I didn't have to worry about breaking things every single time and my Mac flying off of the table and
Yeah.
my kids. And the length, I'll just go for it one more. I'm sorry. And the length of the cords, like what in the world is happening with these stubby little cords for the chargers? They are stubby. I can't fit them anywhere. Can we please make everything minimum, like really I'd like 12 feet, but that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I have to move the table to plug it in because I have to reach it all the way around. So I'm losing like 1.5 feet just by plugging this stupid thing in. And so the rest, it's almost like I have this little, you have to limbo underneath the table to be able to, okay, I'll stop. I have more, but
I hear you, Georgia. I hear you. All right. Well, we have come down to the end of the hour. It has been a wonderful chat about all things WWDC. Next week is going to be the last episode we have before the actual event, WWDC. So we're probably going to talk a lot about what we're expecting them to talk about and what we think they're going to announce, air tags.
To announce.
Please.
Things like that. So we'll do one more WWDC centric episode next week as well, but that one's going to be fun because it's going to be all about things we want, not things that already exist. So it'll be great times. Let me take a minute to thank everybody that joined us live. It was really great to have all of you in there having discussions with us. It was really fun conversations. Some people had some really great things to say. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who listens to us not live. If you can't join us on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern time, usually, you just listen to us later or you watch us on YouTube later. Thank you for checking us out. We love it. We love to have you around. You can chat us up on the social medias if Joe hates when I say social medias. If you don't get to chat with us live, we love to hear from you. So just hit us up on on the Twitters or any other your favorite social media pathways. And thanks to Jim Metzendorf for making us sound good. Jim, I'm real sorry about me today. I have 3 audio files for you, and they're the third one is me and all of the echoing in the room. So I apologize, and I apologize to everyone who's listening. There wasn't really anything I could do about it this time, but next week I promise I'll be back on track. And we are done with the end of the show. Thank you for everything. Have a great weekend, great rest of your week. Goodbye.